Well, for those of us that grew up riding public transportation in like a big city, you innately learn these sort of facial expressions to discourage people from wanting to sit next to you. But if you could look indigested, like, not that you're gonna like vomit, but just,
throw up in your mouth a little?
not feeling all that right, you'd be amazed at how few people will sit next to you on the train.
God, you really thought about this. Are you, like, is this some sort of social problem you have, or?
Welcome back to Keeping Commerce Weird, the podcast where we talk about the weird things that are quietly reshaping commerce before most people realize it. I'm your host, Travis Hess, the CEO of Commerce. Now, there are a lot of smart people in e-commerce. There are also a lot of people with opinions. But every once in a while, you come across someone who's really good at spotting patterns before the rest of us do. And that's why I'm excited about today's guest. I'm joined by Vinny O'Brien, e-commerce strategist, advisor, and one of the industry's most active voices covering e-commerce news and trends. With more than 15 years of experience across online retail, digital marketing, and e-commerce consulting, Vinny has helped brands build global e-commerce and omni-channel strategies across industries ranging from automotive and fashion to home and hard goods. Today, he serves as Group Strategy Director at TRC Solutions, advises e-commerce businesses around the world, and spends a lot of time helping the industry make sense of what's changing and what actually matters. He also makes myself and so many others in this space laugh hysterically. So today, we're going to talk about the trends everyone's talking about, the trends nobody's talking about, some of the weirdest things happening in commerce right now, and where all of this might be headed next. And no doubt, have some laughs along the way. Let's get into it. Vinny, welcome to Keeping Commerce Weird. The authenticity that oozes out of you is what I love the most about you. I feel like you spend your days, mostly watching TV and LinkedIn, like just gathering trends. You're like a modern day, TV or e-commerce guide. And you've also, although you look well preserved today, I feel like you've been around as long as I have, maybe longer, maybe shorter. I don't know. It depends on the lighting. To watch this space, like, I feel like it reinvents itself every 3 years, or at least that's the given cycle. What would you say, given those assumptions, and they're very broad, what's the weirdest thing happening in commerce right now?
First of all, usually the lighting is bar lighting, so I always look good in bar lighting. That's a given. But the weirdest thing that's going on in commerce right now, I feel like we all think we got this idea of control, right? So control means that we figure we've got the answers, we've got the solutions, we know what you want, but you look at the SaaS side of things, you look at the vendor side, you look at the brand side, we all think we know or we all like to think we're in control, but we're not at all. And if you look at the things that are really working, it's basics, it's the plumbing, it's, all the things that worked 20 years ago for Amazon. I look back on when they IPO'd in 97, they didn't really change much. Site still looks as shit as it ever did. It performs marginally better. And they've created this massive false economy, which is everyone needs next day delivery all day, every day. And that has created this massive imbalance the way we need to think about commerce. So that idea of control, I think, is the weirdest thing that we're not getting right now.
Fair. I like that actually assumption, and it has ingrained in people's behavior that you expect things like this instant gratification, like the old. I was talking about somebody. I think I was actually talking to my son about this not too long ago. We were talking about music and how everything now is obviously instantly streamable or downloadable or whatnot, and like the old days of saving up to buy, whether it was a vinyl album, depending on what like equipment you had, or a CD or an audio cassette tape, which I had when I was a little kid, had a Walkman, and I would like save up my money, ride my bike down to the record and tape. And it was an experience, right? You walk through there and you sifted through all the stuff, and you could only afford one album. And it was for someone like you, I suspect you had like maybe a jean jacket in high school or junior high or whatnot. And they had the band pins, like you probably had a Clash pin or like a Dixie Midnight Runner pin or whatever, like no judgment. But again, that whole experience was going into the store, deliberating on what it is you were going to buy, what it is you were going to listen to. And it was worth the wait, like the wait up of saving for the album, of riding your bike down there, buying it, listening to it on the way back, in order, by the way, as the band wanted you to listen to it, whereas now everything's instant. it's now with commerce, it's like I find myself doing the same thing. You're shopping for anything, and even though I'm like going out of town for 3 days or 4 days, you somehow like it's really important it's there tomorrow or within 2 days, or you're pissed off, and it's nonsensical. Like I agree with you. Like unless it's an emergency, why do you need something in 2 days?
Well, the instant gratification thing is like perfectly described it all. The first album I bought, by the way, was Bad by Michael Jackson. The
Bad
epic
by Michael Jackson. Interesting. Why not pre bad?
because I was too young, I guess. I was only 6 when I bought it. I think I bought it for my first communion. But the idea of everything encapsulated in the experience was you'd talk to the record guy, the guy behind the counter. You'd ask him for his opinion. You would try to display your own knowledge. You always walked in there a little bit cocky, a little bit confident because you learned something nobody else did, and you were trying to like riff with the bounce off them and say, "Hey, I know a little bit more than you did." But then you took off the sleeve, you opened it up, you got the lyrics, you had all that going on. But that idea of the instant gratification, it kind of goes into the idea of control. And then there's this other idea, which is we're trying to remove friction everywhere. A little bit of friction is important. And I think about loads of other things. If you take the music analogy, the best music is written about some of the shittiest times in our lives when, first girl breaks your heart, which that happened to me quite a lot for 20 years. So I kind of went through that, the Cure, quite a lot.
Oh, the Hall and Oates, man. Come on. I mean, has anyone been heartbroken more than Daryl Hall or John Oates?
Do you think there? Yeah, no. There's a whole other subplot there, but I do think it encapsulates the whole feeling. Like we all, because we think it's a thing, we all think we can then own it. And loyalty is another perfect example of it. Loyalty is earned. It's not there to grab because someone has bought from you twice. You've got to go and earn it over time and build up trust and earn the right to be in someone's mind. And I think they're the byproducts of this idea that we think we're in control and we have all the answers. We don't. And what it's done is created this industry that I feel, if I go back to the original question, the weirdest thing that there is, we now have an opportunity to rethink the future of commerce. We've had conversion rates at about 3% for 20 years since I started. And we still think that that's good enough, even though we've proven time and time again, it's not a way to deliver profitable commerce. And I'm going to throw this one at you and see what you think of it. But I was working with one of your team in London randomly over the last few months on kind of some conversation points. And one of the things we arrived on was that B2B commerce has a lot to teach B2C because they're inverting the whole process. They're solving for business problems first. And the outcomes are more channels, better customer experience. You bring your customer on a journey to tell them, hey, we're changing. But you communicate that with them and you work through it. So I think there's this great idea of reveling in the chaos that we don't really embrace. And I think that's where opportunity lies right now.
I agree. I also agree with you on B2B. I think there's lots to be learned there. And I think it's historically always been business outcome oriented. And some might argue that's very fiscally driven because there's cost savings and manual processes and things like that. But just AI in particular, we'll get to that section here in a bit, but AI in particular has got a lot easier, I think, obvious use cases in B2B. They're just not necessarily in industries that folks outside the space can relate to per se. Although in basic business principles, oftentimes it's about generating outcomes, it's generating efficiencies, it's generating cost savings, and arguably it's not about putting people out of work or replacing FTEs. I would argue it's redeploying them in a way that's allowing them to be more human and more valuable ultimately to their stakeholders while automating a lot of the tactical elements of this, where I feel like the B2C side, this thing has been a race to the bottom forever on features and functions, this like pretend arms race on features and functions that the younger generations today in the space will talk as if it's new and it was done by Demandware 15 years ago, yet they weren't in the space 15 years ago and Demandware got bought by Salesforce and forgotten for a long time. So it's sort of like lost on this demographic, because I feel like there's old guys like us, and I don't want to date you because I think I'm older than you, but you've got a lot of really excited, really intelligent, smart, younger people that have come into this space, but there's like this middle part of it that's like gone.
Yeah, there's loads in there. I'm going to try and weave in some song quotes as well, just to
weave in whatever quotes you want, buddy. You can
just to try and see, can you pick them up? And if you do, like, there's a beer on me for everyone you establish along the way. So that's a given. The idea, though, that you kind of talk about this next generation of people coming into the industry. take the B2B conversation. You're intrinsically linked. If you've got a relationship with a vendor or provider or a customer, you're intrinsically linked to your performance at the end of the fiscal year. Like it's whether it's a rebate, whether it's I'm going to buy from you again, I'm not going to go to 10 other vendors. I'm going to pitch my tent with you for this next period. So you're working together to get to the right outcome, whatever that means along the way, good or bad. That's what you're working towards. We've got this different approach in the B2C world, which is, again, it goes back to instant gratification. And you take all those newcomers to our industry, it seems like every SaaS company now has got a yacht, they've got access to a private jet, they all play paddle, they all go to 4 dinners a week.
Whoa. I'm going to stop you there. Yacht and a PJ?
Yeah.
I work for a SaaS company. I've never flown private in my life, and I've sailed a few times on like a laser, but there's no yacht, nor is there any water here in Texas. What?
Have you not seen the pictures coming out of Cannes? Like everybody's got a yacht out there. And now look, they're rented and all the rest. But what I mean is it's like I'm sorry, come back to, you should fly private based on what you told me about your flying habits and your anger, your sheer anger. Do not sit beside this man on a flight for fear of your own life.
It's true. I'm indigested. I'm perpetually indigested.
I think you're going to ask your team to book you like the middle seat of a three-seater, and then just have nobody either side, or just book all 3 seats. That's going to be nice. The safest for everybody.
Yeah, it's like European business class. Just put a booster seat in between the aisle and the window and call it business class.
Yeah, and the FAA now will know about this. It's on the record, so we're all good. But it's created this falseness for the generation of people who came in maybe like 10 years after we joined this industry, which was way more complicated because the tech was more disconnected. And one of the things that's happened is the use of the language has created this. So my whole thing right now is, you talked about spotting things or trying to find things. I think the language around our industry is really out of sync with what's happening. So we talked a lot over the last 15 years about the democratization of technology. And what it's done is allowed us to be substandard in so many different ways consistently, and to be 80% right all the time is kind of like a standard that we've decided is good enough for us. So this word democratization for me has been one of the most unhelpful words, I think I would say, because it's made it okay for mediocrity to reign across the industry, and for us to use it as a way to say the entry points are easy. Like we've miscommunicated to our own community how difficult it is to work in the industry that we're in, and maybe it's just because we don't want to accept that things are complicated. Like retail is very, very complicated. Healthcare is really, really complicated. Let's not even talk about the industrial sector. So we have to get the language of this right, and to understand and have conversations in a more, I don't know, old school kind of way. And that's not being old school for old school's sake, but I think if you break it down to brass tacks and get into the definitions of how we do things again, I think there's something in there to be explored.
I totally agree. Listen, I think the fundamental element of democratization, the way that I interpreted it when it first started hitting the ecosystem, was, okay, listen, the tech is way easier to work with. It's way less expensive, which by definition makes it more available for people to take advantage of, which I deeply appreciate. And I think it has gotten a lot easier, but to your point, it's also gotten a lot dumber in some ways. And we're overly simplifying really nuanced sort of use cases and requirements. And like just even, and we'll go into agentic stuff here in a bit, but I think the value in commerce, where it is accruing, is different than where it's accrued in the past. And I think with that will come language changes and model shifts and things like that. And I think it's a lot more fragmented than it was. It's going to continue to fragment. And I think it's no longer necessarily just a destination. I think it's a system and needs to work in harmony. And that brings in a bunch of opportunities, a bunch of challenges. And to your point, like the vernacular and language is going to change yet again. I think that's where people are they're struggling. Everyone's into agentic now, and I think everyone is trying to disintermediate everybody else and claim they're doing X, Y, and Z and try to figure out who's going to win. My opinion is I don't think there's going to be one winner. I don't think that's good for society. I don't think it's good for the space. I think the reality of it is there's going to be multiple winners. I think it will be interoperable, if you will. Pick your term. And I think one of the most important things merchants should focus on is how do they remain sovereign? How do they remain open and independent to own their future, not rent their future. And that has to be easy, certainly, and it has to be plausible, and it has to map back to where a business is at any given time. But I think that's the greatest gift we could give back to merchants as technologists is sovereignty. I control where I show up, how I show up, who I show up next to, and I feel like I can still differentiate. I think there's so much going on right now. When I hear the angst, it's a lot around, like, explain to me why this is good and how I can control it more. And I think that's where we're in this weird, I'd love to get your opinion on this, like where we are in this journey is still early days, and it's mostly around discoverability, but everyone's trying to claim and paint the vision of the future. And I think that's what creates a lot of the challenges, the confusion, and the noise. Do you agree?
Yeah, the idea of trying to paint the future, again, it's the idea of control where we think we have it and we're trying to clamber onto it. But to go back a few steps and hopefully add something to the great point that you've just made, the words that stuck with me, I was reading today that customers adapt. And we've got two sides of the coin here in two really different geographies, customers adapting and customers adopting. Let's take America, for example. I think what you have is an adoption curve. I think the more media noise about it, your product is your stock. So the more your stock is in the news, the more people are positive about it. It becomes easier for people to get on board with something, whether it's doing it for work purposes or you're trying to build your 401k or whatever that looks like. But it's a conversation topic you can have in a bar. On the flip side, in Europe, our problem is we need to adapt to things. And what's happening there, that idea of sovereignty, is that we have regulation kicking in to help with that adaptation piece. We're saying that we're going to create directives, or we're going to put regulation in place to say, we're the ones that are going to tell you how you're going to interact with technology and the way that you should treat your own privacy. There's this idea that we're going to fall into this hyper-personalization world. For that to be in place, you need to have super transparency. And super transparency means we all know what's going on all the time. So those two things have to coexist. And right now, because the technology, I believe, has far surpassed the human need for it at this point in certain sectors. Like let's take it as retail.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
I'm taking retail. If we take agentic as an example, the whole idea that we have a fully agentic world in place for us just doesn't make sense. If I'm a finance company, I don't want you to not want to get credit for the thing you can't afford today, because right now we have every economy around the world, particularly from a consumer perspective, is built on consumer credit, and that is multiplying all the time. So whether I'm going to buy now, pay later, or want to stretch my new credit card a little bit further, I need agentic not to work for me in those instances, because these are choices I want to make without some sort of agent making a choice for me, saying, "Hey, Vinny, not you again. Get the hell out of here. Your checkout is now closed." So even on that level, I can see how the agentic conversation becomes really difficult. On the discoverability piece, that's a problem. We should be saying it's a here and now problem, not a future problem. We should be trying to get ready. I was working for a customer of mine for the last 2 weeks on semantic search for LLMs, and it is incredibly difficult. I was on the other side of that for 15 years in marketplaces, trying to get people to get listings ready for eBay and Amazon and Walmart and all these places, and people didn't care. They didn't want to know about it at all. And relatively speaking, that is a very simple thing to solve for right now. But if you start adding in the contextual layers that we now have to go for, it becomes increasingly difficult. And Google have just said they're moving from a search bar to a search box, which means search now can involve an image, it can involve a video, it can involve so many other things now that we have now got to start thinking, how do I serve this data up? And all of a sudden, reviews become important, emails back in from your customers. There's so many other ways that we can start
content in general becomes way more important than maybe people were assuming it was even a couple of years ago.
And you got to remember then, we don't, like I said earlier, we don't have the right to turn up where we think people are at the right time. It kind of means we have to be everywhere always. And that's a difficult thing for me to reconcile in my head, because it's true in so many levels and then untrue in all these other ways.
Yeah, I made a comment when I first joined the company a couple years ago, coming out of Accenture. One of the things that I learned there pretty quickly, just the sheer depth and size of that business and the types of customers that they work with on a global scale, is essentially the customer is the channel going forward, meaning you've got to be, to what you just said, wherever your customers want to engage you, regardless of where they buy your good or service. And we could unpack this and take it to extremes, but think of, I use pet food as an example a lot because I have 2 dogs, and the pet food is extraordinarily heavy. Like I used to dread the day having to go to like Petco and like grab a 50-pound bag of food and log it in the cart and bring it out to the car and all that good stuff here in Texas. And now, of course, I just have it delivered to me by Chewy. And Chewy knows all the meds that they're on, and they know everything about my animals, and they do an amazing job, and they've digitally transformed over the years where they've got veterinary care and nutraceuticals and pet insurance, and if you've got to euthanize an animal, they figure it out pretty quickly and send you a handwritten card. Like they do an amazing job. Like it is best in class. That being said, if I'm a pet food manufacturer and I've historically sold through these brick and mortar retail stores, especially retail like Chewy or traditional big box or whatnot, fine. It's all negotiating wholesale pricing and, obviously merchandising that product in store and things like that. But what's Chewy and others doing? They're realizing, I can go private label my own product. I have all the data on the customer and the dogs, and these folks that had to rely on these brick and mortar stores and retailers to do it, they've got to figure out how to still reach me to buy the brand that I've been buying over the years, reach me with value and its scale, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sell me direct to consumer, because chances are, pet food X is not going to set up a profitable supply chain if they don't have it already, and even if they did, hard to believe they do it better than Chewy or others that have done it. So my point in all of this is you've got to be anywhere your customers need to or want to discover you or explore you or engage you. You need to be able to try to control and govern that experience and that dynamic as much as you possibly can, because you don't want to run the risk of self-commoditizing yourself. And it's way more complicated to do that now than it was several years ago, because you would have been limited by the tech to be able to do it. Now you've got the tech to do it, to your point, probably far exceeds what we actually need. Now all of a sudden, back to my value is accruing other places, like the intent, because of the contextualized discoverability. The value is no longer in how great your shopping cart is. And a lot of these searches, you're going to be enabled to actually buy that through that agentic surface, or it's going to drop you onto brand site X with that context and intent already embedded. I'm not saying like the shopping cart shouldn't exist. It should. It's just not necessarily as valuable as maybe it was a year ago. So anyway, this is going to expand from here. I think it's a fascinating sightline to see where this all is, and watching the ecosystem sort of fight and position as to where they fit in all of us. Here's a question ecosystem-wise, quick one. Is Shop Talk bigger or smaller next year?
I'm going to say smaller.
I agree. Why? Yeah, why do you say that?
There's less people attending events since then. The value feels like it's eroded a little bit, but also the acquisition, I think, this year means it's going to be a lot more sponsored content next year, which means a lot less independent thought, which the value that you see people getting out is all in social. So people just want to get together with friends and hang out. And I just don't know where they can take it, that it hasn't been.
So V-Spot lightning round.
Oh, no.
Not meant to be hard thinking here. And anybody who knows you or has followed you, or maybe they're new to you here, you do tend to be very opinionated. I find your opinions fascinating and always amusing. But rapid fire here. We're going to start. Marketplaces, helping or hurting brands?
Helping.
AI shopping assistants, trusted advisor, glorified search box, or cosmic advisor?
Glorified cosmic advisor.
Well, I like that. Headless commerce, given all the agentic stuff, hot like Hansel again?
Was it ever not?
I don't know.
Hansel,
I mean, there's debates on that. I mean, I don't. I feel like there's a resurgence now a little bit. I think Phil was stigmatized for a while, like in the penalty box a little bit.
But look, it's like all those great things, like a classic never goes out of style, right?
Oh, I thought you were going to say like cigarettes. I mean, that was cool at one point, then fell out, and now.
But Guinness is
really
still
hard
good
to
for you,
smoke.
right? So I don't know, Guinness and Marlboro, they're kind of right up there.
Are merchants excited or afraid of agentic, or both?
Afraid.
More fear than enthusiasm.
Yeah. They're like Goldilocks trying to go see their grandmother or whatever. I don't know.
Well, this next question is kind of superfluous because I think you've answered it a couple times. It was, what's one e-commerce buzzword you'd like to ban for the rest of the year? I think it's democratization, but maybe there's another one. Is there a number two?
Let me throw bifurcation in there, because you mentioned fragmentation of markets. I think people mistake the two of them. And if I was going by the Queen of England's definition. I think bifurcation means something's being split in two, not multi parts, which is where people use it. That's just because I watch this nerdy TV word game every day, and it's got words like that in there. So I bifurcation just drives me crazy. Partly because I didn't know what it meant.
And you do watch a lot. I mean, to your credit, you do watch a lot of TV.
Just on that point, I'm doing Silicon Valley month for July because I think the absurdity of that show and the beauty of it is that we're looking at it all happening in real time right now. So I'm going to start saying, okay, I'm going to pick a headline every day in July. I'm going to say, what was a scene from Silicon Valley that's already happened to depict this one story? So watch this space.
It is, well, speaking of TV shows, and I love Silicon Valley, but a show that I know you and I both love equally so, if not more. Last question. Is there still money in the banana stand?
There's always money in the banana stand. And you should know you've got the Will Arnett tan going on there. I love it.
God, do I love Will Arnett. Arrested Development is still unquestionably my favorite. I think the first three seasons, the most brilliantly written comedy in the history of comedy, and there's lots of them. I just find that cast and the writing and just the whole vibe has it still holds out today, man. It does.
Fresh. Did you know this story that he used to have colored threads in his writing room? So if he was writing a joke in season 1 that he wanted to bring back in season 2, he followed the thread through his room to know where to get there. And that's how he's able to trace all the jokes back, which I felt, as much as I loved it before, when I heard that kind of stuff, I fell in love with it all over again.
Someone had sent me an auction like maybe a year ago. It was for charity, and I don't remember which cause it was, but one of the things to bid on was a round of golf with Will Arnett and Jason Bateman.
Did you
win? It was extraordinarily expensive. I did not bid, but that honestly, the arrogant thought that I had at the time, that many that know me and follow, including my parents, in my mind, I thought, geez, regardless of point of entry or the cost, I think they would like me by the end of the round, and I could see myself hanging out with Jason Bateman and Will Arnett, which I think we both know is unquestionably untrue.
I would say they'd love it. I know I'd love to do it. The one thing about that Smartless podcast, in researching for Rick 2 years ago, I listened to 21,000 minutes of it in 1 year. But in researching it, I figured that it's the familiarity. It's that idea that you'd love to be in a conversation or have a friend like Will Arnett. And that's kind of the overriding emotion that I get from it. But there's always money in the banana stand, Michael.
Always money in the banana stand, my friend. All right. It'd be an organic transition to our next segment, which is a new one. We're actually trying it out with you. It felt apropos, and I don't want you to take it personally. We're calling it commerce therapy.
Ooh.
That it's a safe place. You can be vulnerable. I would love for you to be vulnerable if for just a few minutes, if you will, if you'd indulge. Right? There's been so much transformation, disruption, hype. Like, I just feel like this entire industry is a giant hype machine from every angle whatsoever. We're all drowned out from the hype. Everything happens so much in any given day. You've got all these pressures: AI pressure, budget pressure, speed pressure, growth pressure, durability pressure. Are things going to survive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In your opinion, who needs therapy the most? Merchants, agencies, software vendors, consultants, analysts, or investors? It's a long list, and now in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have put as many options. But whatever.
I'm going to try not to answer every bit of it, but I feel like each of those groups needs their own individual therapy requirements. Like agencies, good divorce lawyers, someone that's used to conflict coming to an end. I kind of see that, or
where do you think you're involved in that way? Being an agency guy for a long time, I have my own opinions on this. Where do you feel like the vast majority of agencies' mind space is? Is it denial that this is somehow going to come back around? Is it realization that the value proposition is getting wildly compressed and they've got to pivot into other sort of models? Is it somewhere in between?
I think it's more to the latter. I think they feel like the ability to earn cash is now so far diminished that they've got to change business model. The conversation I hear more frequently than anything is we've gone from billable hours to billable minutes to project work. if you can't create a project, you're not building a product, what are you doing? Most agencies now get into consulting, which I think it's a difficult space. What I'd say to the overall question, I think there's got to be collective group therapy. What we've done poorly for quite a long time. I mean this. Let's all join hands. Let's say we're all part of this 12-step problem together, or 12-year, 20-year problem together. But I think what we've never done is created a room for vendors, ISPs, agencies, brands, everyone to be in the same room to have the conversation, because all those things you mentioned, all that overwhelm, it's a collective overwhelm, right? We're all fighting these forces together, and yet we've never sat down as a group to solve those problems together. What we try and do is take piece of information from over here, and I'm going to ring this guy I know, but we never get the 10 people we need in a room to say, okay, how do we move forward together? Bearing in mind, we're going to lose one or two of you along the way. I mean, that's unfortunately this evolutionary period we're in. It's been bloated for quite a while as well. I mean, there's a lot of bloating in our industry. We've got to hold a mirror up to ourselves and say, you know what, that's it. So I think that therapy session could be really helpful to try and recalibrate for everybody what a better future could or should look like based on the collective need. And you know, there's going to be casualties, as I said, but that's something we have to open our mind up to as well, because in the same way we prepare for love, you said you want me to get vulnerable, I'm going to get vulnerable. We prepare for grief the same way we prepare for love, or at least we should do. We know that it's going to happen at some point, but if we can contextualize why it's happening, make peace with our role in it, then I think we can handle that grief a little bit better. That goes for losing a job, losing a company. I'm a consultant. I've probably got 2 years left of me before I can move into something else. And God knows Hollywood's not calling. This giant forehead never really lent itself to being on camera too much.
That's a gorgeous, I mean, surprisingly not shiny. I would have expected it to be shinier.
Well, when you check your WhatsApp later, you're going to see I did a face mask before he came on. Something mad. just to bring it down. I knew I was going to have the lights on. So yeah.
You've been a committed exfoliator for years. That's one thing I've appreciated about you. The skincare. Sure. I mean, the face. It's your best asset, man. All right, we're still in therapy here. I've only gotten through one question. All right, what's something everyone's pretending to believe in market right now that's, in your opinion, just total bullshit?
That we have to pick profitability over growth.
Okay.
I don't think they can't coexist. I don't think we can have one without the other. I don't think the model is set up for us yet to deliver profitability. I look at something like Reformation filed their S1, I think on the 26th. Their numbers are pretty decent, just over $500 million in revenue. Net margin gains for the last 20 quarters. If you look at their model, it's based on good distribution, not overselling on distribution. Curated product design. They've got a 60-day cycle from taking ideas from social to try, I don't know, 2 products a week, I think, to production. Put them in production. Yeah.
It's crazy.
They've really adapted their model, and the others that have done that are Shein, Temu, others of that nature. So for fast fashion, I can see that model is presenting something to work. Now, most people are still in growth phase, trying to figure out how do we deliver unit economics. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of your business, I think. You go to B2B, everyone knows their commercials inside out from day one. They won't do something that doesn't add to the bottom line or at least hold it up. On the B2C side, we still think that future state is going to get us there. Now, to further that, I did some work a few years ago with Fido. And one of the simplest things we said was, like, your customer's hiding in plain sight. If you've got 4 or more channels, you're growing at 4.5x quicker than anybody else in your space that is on less channels than you. So a really simple thing you can do to bring growth back to your business is say, okay, well, let's expand our channel profile. Really simple in theory. It sounds like I'm oversimplifying it, but it's a simple thing to do. The tech now make it easier. You can reconcile orders. It's no extra production cost. It's no real extra overhead when it comes to fulfillment. So the tools and the mechanics are there, yet we choose to think we can do it through creative marketing when really we can't. And marketing has become so crazily difficult that we're all trying to get into loyalty, subscription, all these things that are years-long project that we have to earn the right to be in there for. So I think this idea of profitability first is a fallacy we need to get over and figure out that we need to have a growth strategy that is underpinned by our best products doing the most profitable things that they can for us to free us up to do all the other creative things that we want, like A/B testing and learning and expanding our business model. And yeah, that's my controversial take on that question.
All right, last question in this section.
Okay.
All right, therapy's almost over. Finish this sentence for me. Commerce would be a much healthier industry if we would all just stop blank.
I think if we just leave it there, like if we all just stop, it would be much healthier.
I mean, that's an answer.
No,
right?
if we would all
we give
stop,
partial credit for that?
if we would all stop fantasizing, I think we over elaborate what it is to be in our industry a little bit. We overemphasize our place in life. Like, we're not saving children here. We're creating commerce opportunities, which for some people is important. But what I mean by all that is marketing has become such a difficult thing to do. You look at something like the World Cup and you talk to classical marketers like, I know, Byron Sharp or Mark Ritson or any of these guys that really have strong opinions on it. They talk about marketing as though every company has been around for 90 years, has unlimited marketing budget, and everyone knows them as a household name. Most people are scrapping for every little piece of real estate they can get on mindshare. And I think we have this fantastical view of what it is. And that goes for everything. I go back to the yachts, I go back to the private jets. We have this such an unrealistic reality. Like, you talk about making life simple. For me, I live in Kerry, Ireland. I work in New York. That's a great privilege to be able to do that. But it's very simple. I do the thing, I move on from it and go from somewhere else. But the unrealistic view that everyone else has in the industry is that everything needs to be a paddle game, or like I said, it needs to be something beyond normal. I went to 3 dinners at the Ivy, I think before Christmas last year, and I was just so annoyed with being at this really beautiful restaurant eating this amazing food, but I found it difficult to enjoy it, and that's an awfully.
At least you're invited. I don't even get invited to these things, man. Like, I mean, it could be worse.
I was working at it, really. That's why by that I mean I was waiting tables, trying to make ends meet before Christmas.
Were you wearing the blazer while you're waiting tables? Is that the dress code now? The bar backs of the bus boys wear the blazers.
I just took off the lapels that show that I've done tenure or whatever. But
do you ever pop the collar? Have you ever popped a collar? You pop a collar ever as a kid?
Oh yeah, pop collars, pop tags, anything that will pop, I'm all for it. Yeah, any clothing that pops.
I think those are words to live by, right? That might be the best piece of advice you've given the listening audience today. All right, let's talk about the future here for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep us on time. Let's look ahead. Let's forget the headlines, the hype cycles, like literally what happens next. What does shopping look like in 2030, in your opinion?
A lot like it is today. I think we will probably have more proactive decisions that we've got to make along the way. I think we will have to decide to do that, which I think is a good thing. I think we will.
Will we still be democratized?
In Europe,
I'm sorry, that was a trigger word. I didn't mean to throw you off there.
No, I think we will have more proactive choices to make because the platforms that sit underneath everything are moving that way, and they're kind of saying to us that the shape of shopping is going to be different. The way that our kids shop is going to change the way that we have to respond to it. So I think we'll be looking at how 14, 15-year-olds now want to consume things, which will be less human interaction on one side. There'll be a whole kind of a split in how we buy and sell from each other. And then on the other side, there'll be people who demand even more human interaction. They want to see the whites of your eyes. They want to ask you questions. They'll need that sales assistant on the floor. Then that sales assistant will need to be able to do everything that they can do today, plus all the things that the next generation want them to do, which is to shut up and parcel it up and give it to them over the counter. So on that side of it, I can see it all being similar, but kind of different. And then from a I think it'll get different on the delivery side of things. I see drones starting to take off a little bit more, literally. That was a drone pun, if anyone was listening. But there's a company that have done really successfully here called Mana Aerodrone. Outside of Google and Walmart, they're the single biggest, and Amazon, they're the single biggest flights of drone deliveries anywhere in the world. They're just after moving out of Ireland as of last Friday. Look out for them. They're heading your way pretty soon. But their ability to handle different weights, get things to places quickly, the most interesting part of all that for me was the cost to put a drone in the air. Initially, is quite expensive, but you can use that drone. I think it's something like 150 times or 300 times. It's a crazy number. So
before what? Before it breaks, or before you got to recharge it and stuff?
Before breaks,
before it's end of life.
Yeah, like charging, all those things are really interesting. But drones in general, I've seen how they can be used to solve, like, someone's trying to steal your purse and the nearest drone gets activated. They're in a little lockbox that's on your street. It goes up and it's
chases down the burglar.
Yeah, it chases down the burglar. Precognitive crime. But I do think drones will be more prevalent. Not that I want them to be, but I think they'll be there. So I think supply chain, the two areas I think people are going to win in commerce in 5 years' time, is going to be better supply chain management, which ultimately means a more advanced business model.
Do you think there's any chance of the blimp or the Zeppelin making a comeback, or do you think it's just going to be drones?
I would love to see a Zeppelin in the sky. Could you imagine? Bet you just people.
That'd be amazing.
And there's no one ever seen a Zeppelin before. But if you remember the movie The Rocketeer, kind of poses the idea there could be rocket-based delivery guys and Zeppelins competing for slow and fast deliveries. Like, get your new sofa delivered by Zeppelin, get the cushions delivered by the Rocketeer.
Yeah. Oh, God, I love the concept of a Zeppelin. It's so majestic.
With current climates, though, if a Zeppelin went up, surely, like in 100-degree heat, it's going to just explode.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Last section here, and actually the one I've been looking most forward to, which we've titled Vinny's Unpopular Opinions.
Oh, shit. Something
you wear well. Every great conversation, I would consider this a great conversation, should end with a few options that make people uncomfortable. I'm not opposed to that. Give me one commerce opinion will piss off half of LinkedIn.
Attribution is absolutely useless.
Ooh, I like that. What e-commerce metric gets far too much attention? Same thing?
Probably, yeah.
What do merchants complain about that actually isn't the real problem?
Oh.
You just want to do attribution down the whole thing? I mean,
no. Platforms can do pretty much anything we want.
What's the biggest lie continuously propagated in this industry?
That conversion rate of 2% is acceptable.
Okay, you might have the same answer to this next one. What's the one thing the commerce industry needs to hear, even if it doesn't want to hear it?
That we need to change. Doing things repeatedly and banging your head off the wall multiple times and expecting that better outcome, it's probably not going to happen. So I think we need to have a hard look in the mirror and say, how do we get better at this? I get pushback on the 3% rule all the time, but we're operating being happy letting 97% of traffic go every day. Like, CRO guys might say to me, no, we're not. We're trying to fix for that. But CRO means the opportunity is already gone because you're trying to fix for something that fundamentally wasn't there. So I think that we need to solve that.
All right, here's an opportunity to come clean. What's something you've completely reversed your opinion on over the last decade? I'll give you a decade, not even like...
Decade. Social. I really didn't think there was any life in it at all, but it's now proving to be a place that people can play, grow, do interesting things with. It's allowed people to evolve business models. There's at least 3 brands I know here that grew up on social only. And you think about the mechanics of it, it means you didn't need a full back office suite to start a brand. You just needed to be able to do the things you need to in the channel that you play in, which for some people is TikTok, some people it's Insta. So social commerce is something I continually get wrong. I cannot get my head around it. I don't have the patience for it. And the most interesting thing, and the way I think about it, to separate someone who really knows a channel and someone who doesn't, I was talking to one of the guys in Gymshark. He said, if you go to a conference and all the CMOs are saying like TikTok shop is the new big thing and you want them to prove themselves, ask them then to take out their phone and show you their screen time for how much time they spend on TikTok. And you will know they're just giving you a goddamn soundbite, because most of them will have spent 2 minutes in the last 3 weeks. And he said it's so funny, like you just see the blood drain from the face when they're asked to produce that. So that's a little tip if you're ever on stage with TikTok, get them to do that and watch their cojones shrink a little.
I would love to see MySpace make a little bit of a comeback. I had an amazing soundtrack streaming out there. I feel like one of my proudest, like it might be the only thing I've ever posted on social media outside of LinkedIn, was my my mix on MySpace. And on Instagram, I only signed up because all the little videos that people would send me, they stopped letting me open them until I signed up for an account. And now my account is literally nonstop dog videos, food videos, and the occasional golf tip. There is a talking French bulldog named Jib Jib I watch.
What's up, man? What are you doing?
I can't get enough of this thing, dude. I thought it was
the dog
AI at
speak in
first.
French?
No, he I'll send you the link. It's fascinating. The dog he likes these butt smacks apparently.
No butt smacks. Come on.
It's like 30 seconds of dopamine, and then I'm back to like, other food videos and things that I inspire to maybe make and cook, but I never get around to, despite saving everything. Listen, man, I appreciate you so much. I find you literally the most amusing person. And whenever I'm having a shitty day, I literally try to find your stuff. And whatever it is, your sense of humor, just for whatever reason, just resonates with me. It makes me laugh endlessly. And thank you, man. Thank you for being you. Don't ever change. Let me know how I can be helpful with the LinkedIn algorithm or whatever else. I think your stuff is brilliant. I think you've got an amazing perspective on all this. And I am proud to call you a friend. I'm rooting for you, man. I really am, and appreciate everything you do.
Thank you so much, and I can reciprocate in any way. I always will. I look forward to meeting up with you for a beer before long, seeing you on this side of the pond or on your side, and comparing tan lines. That's going to be the most fun thing I think we can do.
Oh, yeah.
You're almost Irish with those tan lines.
I know. I don't know where I get it. I just, again, it's the sun doesn't hate me, I guess. Vinny, thanks for joining us and helping us make sense of the strange, fascinating, and sometimes ridiculous world of commerce. If you're not already following Vinny online, make sure to connect with him on LinkedIn and check out the V-Spot, where he's constantly surfacing the stories, trends, and ideas shaping the future of our industry. And as always, keep commerce weird.